All right. Just had some thoughts about what's normal and abnormal, and what's balanced, what's harmonious. Trying to redefine a couple things here. So I had a conversation with the other day with a friend that sparked all of this, and she said, "Yeah, my husband is very severely ADHD. You can just see him always in motion." And she said, "I always tried to balance him out. I always tried to, try to figure that out, how we can work together to create a good home." And then she said, "But the other day I was diagnosed with ADD too." Like, oh, that explains a lot. It was ADHD. But anyway, this idea, that her brain is going in so many different directions. It's hard for her to focus on one task, right? Whether it's manifests also in physical activity or just in mental activity, what we call hyper activity. Um, she felt like she was diagnosed with this. And as she started describing the symptoms of it, I thought, oh, look, that's probably me. Not so much the activity, but my brain goes everywhere. And we started talking about why we define this as normal. Why is normal? There's normal and then there's ADHD. There's normal and then there's ADD. And I thought, why? Why? What is normal? If you think about it, for centuries and eons, since the beginning of time, it's not been the sedate and the ones who crave inactivity or who enjoy inactivity or who are calm, which I love them. They're so important to me. But people in emotion or a balance of the two. We have them going out and hunting, gathering. We have them creating and working in the farms. And only when we had the kings and queens with their desire, their status, I guess. Like, this is what is good and this is what is proper, as we can sit still and we can be calm, and that's infiltrated everything from our church worship services. Reverence is not just quietly sitting. I can be reverent. In fact, I feel more connection with God and reverence generally when I'm engaged in something, whether I'm drawing or whether I'm moving. That's, to me, reverence, when I'm focusing on Him. I fold my laundry while I listen to the scriptures, and it helps me really focus on that. Does that mean I'm broken or there's something wrong with me? No. It just means I'm different. And so I really want to do this cry out against how normal is defined. Because we have all these really amazing people who are labeled as abnormal. If you read Ken Robinson's book, it's called The Element, he talks about this young lady who was taken to a doctor because she just couldn't sit still in class. And when the doctor asked the parents to step out, he turned on some music and the girl started to dance. And she danced breathtakingly. And she's just a young girl. He said, "There's nothing wrong with your daughter. She was just a dancer." And I feel like when we label people with ADHD or ADD, it's a disorder. It's a problem. That's wrong. I'm sorry. There is a time when it cripples you. There's a time when it gets in the way. But is it getting in the way of what? Being able to sit in a desk for 8 hours a day, be able to sit. What is beautiful about sitting? Unless you want to be sitting. Yes, there's a time and a place for it. Yes, let's figure out a time for that. But is it as necessary as we feel like it is? Is it as important? If someone is calm and beautiful, and I love calm people. Believe me, I love calm, methodical people who can sit and process and observe in stillness and quiet. I love it. I respect them and admire them, but they are not the only beautiful people on the planet. Also, if you ever watch A Child in Motion, we have this girl in our nursery class at church. She's 3. She does not sit still. You can see her mind and her eyes are continually active, and she's figuring things out. She's so excited and continually interacting with the world around her, and she's alive with excitement. And she'll probably be labeled also with a disorder. It's not normal to sit still for 8 hours a day. We don't say, if someone is more calm and they don't want to move around as much, which again, that's beautiful. We don't say, "Oh, you're broken. You want to go run a marathon? What's wrong with you? You want to brainstorm? You want to go?" No. We applaud it. And we say, "Oh, look how admirable that is." Well, let's say, "Hey, look, they're in motion 24 hours a day. That's cool. Go for it." Because some things come naturally to people and some things people work at. I remember listening to or reading Little House on the Prairie, or in the Big Woods, and I remember her talking about Sundays. And Sundays for her sister, she loved it. They would sit and not do anything for like 3 hours or 6 hours and just sit and do quiet things. And it drove Laura crazy. It was so hard for her to do that. And I think it's because we have different personalities out there. So going back to my original story with my friend, I thought, you know what, all those times I was really hard on myself for not being able to focus, or my brain's always going or jumping ship from one thing to the next. I am a great initiator. I start so many projects. Do I finish them all? No, but I initiate things really, really well. If I can have someone that's steady with me, that helps me stay the course, we could be a great team. We can be harmonious, not balanced, harmonious. Because I feel like sometimes, like with my friend, feels like she's Alice ADD and her husband's ADHD. She's like, what are we going to do? What kind of normalcy are we going to create for our kids? I'm like, why? Like, what is important? She's like, well, I just need to get dinner on the table consistently. I'm like, well, then good. That should be your focus. But it shouldn't be that I need to be not ADD in order to make our family jive together. That's why I think balance is a misnomer. It's not an accurate word. I think what we should seek for is harmonious. You know, when you have people doing their own dances or working out their own personalities, how can you work harmoniously with the people around you? Whether they have ADD, ADHD, or OCD, or whatever we want to label, all these disorders. What if instead we try to be harmonious with our strengths? Our greatest strengths are our greatest weaknesses, and our greatest weaknesses are also our greatest strengths. I have a friend who told me that a long time ago. It really blew my brain. I just thought there's some people who are just really good at what inherently, and I'm not saying we shouldn't fight against, we shouldn't like try to change. Yeah, I tend to be ADD, but I also am very sedate. So I need to force myself to get out and exercise. This guy, on the other hand, he was born in motion, and he'll probably always be in motion. And so for him to be still is super hard, and that's why you have to train him to be, is like to be calm and still with treats. Other dogs, you have to motivate them to move with treats. Doesn't mean one's broken. No, they're just different personality types. So I just want to challenge the word disorder. I want to challenge that. Maybe it's attention redirectional attribute, or attentional redirectional activity strength. Let's come up with some different words for it, because I feel like, I've been so hard on myself all these years, or feel like, oh, well, I'm not good enough, I don't sit still, or there's something wrong with me. Like, I'm quite sure that God didn't say everyone needs to sit still all the time. If that's your worldview, when you're doing it because you feel like reverence. Oh, well, what about reverence? Learning. There's some people that just learn so much better when they're moving, right? Or emotion. We have engineers, we have actors, we have musicians. We have some people that need that motion of mind or body in order to learn well. And we have other people who need the still and quiet. And doesn't that mean sometimes we have to adapt, right? Sometimes we have to adapt when there's chaos around us, and we have to be able to work with that. And sometimes we have to adapt when we have chaos inside of ourselves and try to find a way to cope with that. But as a coping, it's a way to look at it differently. So let's look at things differently as we see the people around us that are different. Let's try to be harmonious with them. Let's stop labeling them as disorders, or maybe redefine what normal is, because I think we're really messed up when we think about what normal is, and the standards that we hold, especially our children too, with labeling them and putting them in boxes when they could really thrive and really bless the world if we embrace just a lot of inherently of who they are.